So now that we have an understanding of how we can manage our files with the compiler, let's dive into the compiler options, because that's really interesting. This allows us to control how our TypeScript code is compiled. So not only which files, but also how the files which are getting compiled are treated by TypeScript. And there you see we have a bunch of options. Now you got short explanations next to these options. Some explanations arguably are a bit cryptic, others are quite clear. And I will say that a lot of these options, most of these options, will not matter in most projects. So you'll not set all of these options, not even close. You typically can ignore a lot of these options. Now I will pick up on the important options here throughout this course, because some options only make sense when we learn about a certain feature. And I want to dive into some options right now already though. And for that, let's go through that file from top to bottom and see what we got there. And let's start with the target option. As you see, this actually is set by default. It's not commented out. And what you do with this option is you tell TypeScript for which target JavaScript version you want to compile the code. Because what TypeScript does is it does not just compile new features like the type annotations that don't exist in JavaScript to JavaScript code. So it does not just take care that this here works. It also compiles the code to JavaScript that runs in a certain set of browsers. And you basically define which browsers support the compiled code by setting the target. The default target here in this project, as you see, the initial target which is getting set up is ES5, which means all TypeScript code is compiled down. And we can actually see that. If I run tsc here to compile all my files, we see in app.ts I'm using let and const. But in app.js, we see var. And that happens because we got a target of ES5. And in ES5 world, we don't have let and const. So the good thing here is that we can use TypeScript to generate code that works in older browsers as well. But it's totally up to us if we want to do that. Maybe we don't want to do that with TypeScript, because maybe we got some other build tool that will then take care about the JavaScript transpilation, and therefore we don't want to have TypeScript do that. Or maybe we want to ship code that only works in modern browsers, because we know our app only will run in modern browsers. And therefore, alternative options can be seen here if you delete the value, and then here in VS Code at least, if you hit Control Space to get the auto-completion, you see a bunch of suggestions and you see all available values here. Now over time, this of course will change because we got new JavaScript versions released. You saw we set this to ES5 before. If you don't specify target at all, then right now TypeScript compiles to ES3 even, so it supports an even older version. But you can also go with ES6, which is more modern, which for example supports constant let, or take an even more recent version. ES6 is the equivalent to ES 2015, just for the record. So if we set this to ES6, for example, and I rerun the tsc command after changing the tsconfig.json file, you will see that now in app.js we got let and const, because now that is supported there. So that is up to you. Of course, the more modern of a JavaScript version you pick here, the more concise your generated code is, because TypeScript has to compile less and less code, or it has to work around non-existing features in less situations. And therefore, the compiled code typically is then more concise and shorter. So that's the target. What about the other options?